Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Another Thursday morning, another Thursday. We're back at it, and it's been a good week. Got to get out and hit some balls. The weather is getting slightly warmer. It's not quite there yet. We had some flurries of snow here in Metro Detroit because why wouldn't it? It's the end of March. Why wouldn't we have some flurries? Nothing that stuck or anything like that, but still, it's just Mother Nature basically punching me in the face for having a mild winter because just what happens here in Michigan in the winter or in the spring. So anyway, hopefully having a great week so far. This episode today, of course, brought to you by Titleist Pro V1, Pro V1X. For the best in the world, the goal is to improve every day. Same goes for all of us dedicated to this game, and it starts with choosing a golf ball you can trust. The Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X have set the standard for performance, and now they just got better. Again. Both models are engineered with high gradient core technology that delivers lower long game spin for more distance and a more consistent flight. And of course, you can expect that trusted drop and stop greenside control, so important to shooting lower scores. The Pro V1 is the best combination of distance, spin, and feel in the game, delivering a penetrating ball flight, where the Pro V1X flies a little higher, spins more in the short game, while still giving you low spin for longer shots to maximize your distance. Outperform your best. Learn more about the new Pro V1, Pro V1X at Titleist.com. So, like I said before, Pro V1, Pro V1X, I like them both. I'm probably going X this year. I like that higher ball flight, especially with the irons. It's just, it's easier to stop on the green. The Pro V1 has a great feel to it, and it just, does have a penetrating flight with a driver and anything off the tee. So, go to Titleist.com, check out the new Pro V1 and Pro V1X. As soon as I will get on the course, I'll be talking about my thoughts on them. But unfortunately, I'm not on the course yet. I'm getting close. We're getting close. There's a few courses that have been kind of open with some temp greens that I heard people have gone around and play. I went to the range last weekend or over the weekend, and I was coming home, unloading my car, and my neighbor across the street, him and a guy were leaving right then to go play at the old Rack Attack, the old Rackham golf course in Metro Detroit. And I was very jealous. But I went and hit some balls, and it was not the best range time in the world, as some of you, if you follow me on Instagram, at Club Junkie Pod, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen my story that I walked into the range. I went to the range in Royal Oak, the one at 12 or 13 in Woodward, and I walk in, and we had. And to their point, we had kind of a pretty decent windstorm earlier in the week. It was pretty windy. It had like 65-mile-an-hour gusts or whatever it was. It was windy. There were some branches and stuff down in my neighborhood and all that jazz. But got there, and I guess the winds had damaged the netting at the back of the range. So they were asking people to not hit drivers. Basically, don't hit anything that would go out over 240 yards because it would go into the golf course that is behind it. So right behind the range is Royal Oak Golf Course, which is a little 9-hole municipal course, and they basically said don't hit drivers or anything you can hit at 240. So I walked in there with 4 drivers in my bag. I had the 3 Srixon drivers I was looking to hit, and also I had my TSR2 with the new Mitsubishi Vanquish shaft. So I was looking to hit that as well. So I had a bunch of stuff in there, and I didn't hit any of it. So focused more on hitting irons, hybrids, some wedges, all that day, which is fine. Honestly, my iron game probably needs the work. And, I was hitting a lot of little wedge shots out there till a bunch of little flags out all over the range, and was hitting, wedge shots to those. So overall, it was probably beneficial to my swing. Unfortunately, I didn't get to test any drivers that day. So there was I want to thank most of you for the wonderful jokes of I could have still hit any club in my bag, and yes, the sign said 240, but you're good to go, green light. I'm very thankful that you guys are able to give me a little crap about that, and it was well warranted. I totally deserved it, and I would have done the same to you guys if you were posting that same thing. So totally get it. But it was a good day. It was warm. With they have the heaters going. With the heaters, I was just in a t-shirt and jeans. It got that warm, and I went there with like a quarter zip and stuff. Ended up taking that off and hit balls all morning. It was really, really nice. And like I said, temperature, and the temperature was good. So hit a bunch of balls, and I focused mostly on, like I said, irons, wedges. I brought like the Cobra LS, the Aerojet LS 3 and 5 wood. I brought the new Mizuno hybrid. All three of those I kind of want to hit more because I basically just hit irons most of the day. So today's show, we're going to talk about 3 different irons, and we're going to kind of compare 2 and talk about another one flat out or separate. So the first ones I was hitting, and I hit a ton of balls, and like in being that you couldn't hit drivers or woods or really any of that stuff, it was kind of nice because you were forced to hit just a bunch of irons, and that's literally what I was hitting the whole time. I was actually hitting wedges really well. Like I wouldn't say wedges. I brought a wedge with me. I had the RTX6 from the new RTX6, the Cleveland, and I was just hitting little wedge shots to all these little flags, and I was hitting it really well. The tempo was good. Like everything about it was good. And so that's not going to carry over to the course. That's guaranteed. But it felt really good there, and I was hitting really good shots. And I had the full swing launch monitor, and I was looking because they have little checkered flags, and they're really kind of like knee high, or not knee high. They're probably like waist or chest high flags that are out there. And a couple of them are marked on the bay that were like 50 and whatever yards. And hitting to some of those, I mean, looking at yardages, I mean, it was like, that the blue and white checked one was 50 yards or whatever it was, 53 yards or whatever, and just dropping balls on there, and it was picking up everything, and it was pretty darn accurate to distance-wise of where it was landing. So it was a good day. Had fun hitting balls, and I've been hitting some of this stuff for a little while. I know I've been hitting the ZX4s. I know the Srixon ZX4. I know a bunch of people have asked about and keep asking me when I'm going to do a review on it. And I've been hitting them at the Dome, hitting them now. It's like I'm just trying to compile enough swings on it to get it out there. And the same thing with the Mizunos. We got them in a while ago, and then I just hadn't had time to get them out to the range. And I got them out for a few swings, got them out again, and like I said, just trying to get enough swings in to make it where it's not just like 4 balls with the club and saying, oh yeah, it's great. Trying to get as many as I can in on that. So the ones we're going here, we'll start off with Mizunos. So we've got the JPX923 line, which is massive this year. It's like 5 different irons that go from all the way from hot metal HL all the way down to the Tour, which is kind of the one-piece forged blade-like, slight cavity, but blade-like iron, and everything in between. So, but today talking about it, because I think I've talked about the Hot Metal Pro a while ago. Today we're going to talk about the Tour and the Forged. So the 2 kind of better players irons, lower handicap irons. The Forged, Mizuno will say, is built for the Tour player up to kind of the mid handicap. Now everybody kind of mid handicap is debatable on what that number is, whether it's a 15, whether it's a 10, whether it's whatever. But I think it's an iron that you're going to see players from anywhere from scratch type players all the way up to probably 15 handicaps. You'll see these in the bag, depending on your striking ability and all that. It's a really great looking iron from address. I really like it. It's got just a hair offset, which isn't bad. Again, I don't mind a little bit offset. It transitions well from the hosel into the leading edge. Leading edge is really straight. The top line, it's got just enough meat on it where you're like, I can miss it and not be penalized. And the blade size is really good. It's not super compact, not super tiny. It's a little longer looking heel to toe, but it's still, I guess, compact. I don't want to say it's too compact, but it's still compact. Looks really good from address. I really like this thing. Like for me, top lines don't have to be razor thin. I don't mind having a little bit of metal there, and like I said, giving me the confidence that I don't need to hit it perfectly every time. So overall, really good shape. The sole is not crazy thick. It's actually fairly narrow for the size. It's got a decent sized cavity. If you go to a Mizuno site, they're going to tell you that it has a really it's built kind of differently. The 4 through 7 iron have kind of a micro slot milled in them, where the Tour is all one piece forged, but the forged. The 4 through 7 iron has like a small slot built into it for extra speed. The 8 through, I think, gap wedge, or the 8 through the short irons, all one piece, forged, for feel, consistency, all that. So as much as the forged are definitely more forgiving, they're also not like the crazy high ball speed iron that sometimes you get into this say size or whatever, and you're expecting just an absolute ton of ball speed, just effortless launch and all this stuff, that player's distance category. And I don't know that these are necessarily player's distance. This is a 7-iron, so it does have the little like micro cavity in the back, but it doesn't, the ball speed and stuff like that. You were never hitting balls that basically jumped off the face and you just were like, oh my gosh, that thing is absolutely flying. So like I said, it's 4 through 7, forged out of chromoly, and has the micro slot for a little added speed, a little more forgiveness on it, and then 8 through, I think, gap. Let me just double check. Yeah, 8 through gap is a full 1025 carbon steel forge. So a little different. These here, I only have a 7-iron. I didn't have, I had, I think, a 4 and a pitching wedge, but I don't have a whole set. So I was just, bringing 7-irons around. So 7-iron versus 7-iron. Now, when I compare kind of numbers with these two, little difference in loft. So the 7-iron in the forged is 30 degrees, and the 7-iron in the tour is 34 degrees stock. So a little different. So we're going to see a difference in, ball speed, launch, all that stuff, distance. But remember that these are a few degrees apart. I didn't realize they were 4 degrees. I thought they were a little closer than that, but I did suspect the tour was probably a little weaker. But they are definitely two totally different irons. But the forged is really nice. I really like the look of it. I think Mizuno really did a good job with the shaping, with the design, the whole back cavity, all that. I think it looks really solid. I think they did a really nice job, and I think a lot of really good players are going to play this iron. It looks really good, and then it ends up performing really, really solid as well. As I'm knocking stuff off my desk here, which is something I haven't done in a while, but the sound and feel on this, really good. They're soft. The tour will definitely be a little bit softer, but these are pretty soft. They're a touch firmer than the tour, and just have a little bit more click, a little bit more audible click to them. You can hear the little firmer, you can feel it. When I hit balls, I usually have headphones in, so I try to negate some of the sound, even though a lot of sound is based on feel, but I try to kind of negate a lot of that with headphones. But this one, you definitely can feel that the face is just a little bit firmer. Nothing crazy. It's still a good feeling iron, and I think it kind of fits right in terms of feel with a lot of multi-piece forged irons. It fits right in there. It's got a really solid feel. It's really responsive. You're going to know when you miss it. You hit it low. I think the first 3 balls, as I kind of was getting warmed up, were kind of on the last 2 grooves down low on the face, and you could definitely feel that click of the impact as that ball hit that spot and went. These actually launched, again, being a 30-degree 7-iron, launched definitely lower and flatter than I thought. When I first started hitting them again, I hit some shots low on the face. As I kind of got into the groove, I was hitting it better, but it definitely launched a little more flat. I was expecting these to be something that kind of, even though they're stronger lofted, to jump way up in the air. Super easy to launch, and they're not. They're a pretty penetrating ball flight, and I think that's nice, especially for some players that, as you get into the players category and the better players, a lot of people have no problem getting the ball up in the air. They create enough speed, and for players who are really hitting it high, I mean, this, like I said, offered a good penetrating ball flight. So if you're someone who hits it really high, it's probably worth taking a look at these. I was hitting both these with Nippon Modus Tour 120s, both in stiff. So the kind of the mid-low launch shaft from Nippon. Hitting both, though, with the same shaft. But this actually did offer kind of a flatter ball flight, a little more boring trajectory than I thought. With this, if I was to put this iron in the bag, I would probably switch out shafts and go something a little higher launching, like maybe a 105 from Nippon, or, a True Temper, maybe a True Temper Dynamic Gold, 105 or something like that. Just something that, KBS, I don't know if I go money taper with... But, something just higher launching, I would probably go, just because I hit these really, really flat. But the overall sound feel really, really good. Just if you're hitting tour versus forge side by side, you're going to notice a little difference. You probably are if you're looking for it in sound and feel. But this is still really good for what it is. Shape, everything good, and then you get into I guess I'll talk about both in terms of sound, feel, shaping, all that, and then we can get into some of the numbers on it. But then you've got the tour, which is the one piece forge. This is kind of the iron, that the blade, as you say, in the lineup, and this one here is going to be basically made for pretty good ball strikers. You're going to have to hit the ball fairly solid with this thing. I mean, these are going to be played by players on tour. This is going to be played by a lot of low single digits and kind of elite amateur players. Again, Mizuno doesn't give you a exact, like, this is the handicap range, but it's listed as low. You've got a really shallow cavity in the back. For all intensive purposes, it's probably more blade-like than actual cavity back. But it does, all these, the full set is one-piece grain flow forged. It does have the copper underlay, so these things are all about feel, and when you hit them, they definitely are really, really soft. So these here, when you strike it in the center, and I actually was hitting these decent. There was a little, I'm going to show this on YouTube. You're not really going to be able to see it. But if you look at kind of the little bit of pattern that's left, because I tried to clean them off for some photos, I was getting a decent amount in pretty much the center of the club, and there were a couple in a heel a little bit, a couple little high towers out there that are still left on the face, but it was hitting pretty solid. And when you strike it in the center, it is extremely soft. Again, with some of these irons like this, you can really feel the ball compress off the face because there's so much mass behind it. And these aren't crazy super thin faces, anything like that, but you do feel the ball kind of compress off the face. This actually was much easier to launch. Again, weaker lofts on there. Easy to launch, easy to get up in the air, and in terms of forgiveness, you definitely noticed a bigger drop off in distance. If you go through kind of the launch monitor and look at all the shots, and you look at the variation of everything, carry distance, ball speed, all that, there are definitely more variations for my game, being a 9.4 or whatever I am handicap at the moment. Even though we haven't started up yet in Michigan, I don't think you can even post a score yet. But look at 9.4 from last year, and striking it here, I can definitely tell when you miss it off the toe, miss it off the heel, miss it a little low, anything like that, you're going to see a little bit more of a drop off, which isn't a surprise. I mean, if you're hitting this iron, you know that when you miss it, when you don't hit it solid, you're going to get penalized a little bit for that. And it's not horribly unforgiving. Like, you don't have to only hit it in a dime size spot in the middle. Like, that's it. You can move it around a little bit in the face, but as soon as you get beyond kind of that little bit of a threshold of that center section, you're definitely going to see some lower shots. And overall, my distance on this one definitely shorter. In looking now, being 4 degrees weaker, I was a little shocked when I was hitting balls when I was first hitting them. I was a little shocked that this was coming up so much shorter, especially when you're hitting really comparing like really good shots to really good shots and noticing that there was a big difference, and then really hitting a few that you do miss and notice that drop off was even more drastic. But now coming back, looking, realizing that they were that much weaker in loft, it makes a lot of sense now. For me, if I was to play the tour, which I wouldn't, this is a little beyond my game for an everyday iron. If I'm playing this every day, the bad days are just going to be kind of rough. The good days will be good, but for me, I would fit more into that forged category there than the tour. And I guess you could kind of do something with making some type of combo set. The lofts are kind of off a little bit though, so it would be, you would definitely have to tweak a few things to get everything to match up, I think, really well. But this iron here, like, sound and feel, really, really good, extremely soft. What you'd expect from a Mizuno, JPX923 tour, as they call it, buttery soft. But really soft, and when you hit it solid, it's just a thud. There's no click whatsoever. Even with crap range balls, there's just no click. It just thuds, the ball goes, and workability's there. Now, for me, I'm not a guy who flights it up and down and does all these things. That's not really in my game. But you can definitely work this right to left. It's got a little forgiveness in it. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are like, well, I'm a 10 handicap, I really love them. Can I play them? You got to go try them to see, because depending on the type of player you are, that 10 handicap, maybe you can play them, maybe you can't. For me, I would pass on these and go to the forged. I think the look from Address, where this one does have even a thinner top line, I would say kind of a similar amount of offset. It's just a little bit, but a thinner top line, looks a little shorter from heel to toe, and looks even a little bit more compact. But it's by no means like a tiny club. Like, certain blades, you set them down, like the TWs, the P7 TWs, you set down and they just look so small, or the Ricky Fowler Pro limited edition blades, which were, the smallest blade out there, but some blades just look so tiny. And this has a little bit of real estate, like nothing crazy. You're not going to set it down and think it's a shovel, but when you set it down, you're not intimidated by the size. I feel like there's some irons, even the T100 rides along that border for me of like, is it a little too small for my game? I've played T100s a lot. I really love them, and they're not, but those are super compact. These are a little bit larger to my eye when you set them down. The top line's thin, but not crazy razor thin. It's, I could use a little more metal on top for my confidence, and then overall a pretty narrow sole. So you're going to get good turf interaction, be able to work the ball. It's a precision club, when you hit it in the center, you're going to get the same shot every time. And when you look through, your launch monitor stats, and if you're hitting a bunch of balls, the balls that you struck well, you're going to see that those balls all kind of went the same distance. They kind of similar spin rates, same, launch, all that. I mean, they're all very, very similar. So Tour, really, really nice. I like kind of both of these with this kind of satin, or I think they call it kind of white chrome finish. Looks really good, really kind of classy. I think the finish is a little bit nicer than some of the previous JPXs that had a little more of a dull finish that kind of marked up real easily. These I think will hold up a little bit better. Mine look really good because they have no back chatter, and I haven't beat them up too badly. But sound and feel for the Tour, really, really good. It's what everybody kind of expects with with a Mizuno blade or shallow cavity like that. The numbers interesting enough. Get into both of these. So distance wise, there is a little bit of difference, and not when you hear they're 4 degrees difference, I think you probably expect a bigger gap. But for me, these are both 7 irons that I was hitting, both same shaft, same length, all that. Just slightly different designs. The forge ended up being 5 yards longer. So counting in my solid strikes, my mishits, all that, the Tour average 150 and the forged average 155. And this is over, I don't even know how many balls, but a lot of each one. I mean, I was hitting tons of balls. I basically hit I've gone to the range a couple times with them, and this weekend when I had the monitor out and all that, I mean, it was basically a whole bucket on basically 3 irons. So I was hitting a lot of shots. So 150 carry with the Tour, 7 iron, 155 with the forged. So 5 yards difference. And again, if you look through if you actually click on all the shots for the forged, much tighter variation. So, when you see it, I've got a couple, like a 147, 149, 149. I've got a couple, 150, but then you look and there's a bunch of just, 152, 154, 57, 56, 58. I mean, a lot of those mid 157, 156, all that in there. And then you pepper in a couple shorter ones. But the overall majority of the shots were in that mid 150s to even high 150s shots. There weren't that many low ones to bring that average down, but even so, I feel like with a real, with a good ball hitting off grass, all that. I mean, this would be, my 160 club. Hopefully, who knows? I may be slowing down a little bit, but again, over a big average and not removing. I removed I think 3 shots that were really just really bad, hit it way thin, or just hit it so far off the toe, whatever, they just were dropping out of the sky. I took a bunch of those out just to make it a little bit a little bit more conclusive of what I actually hit. But yeah, 155 on that, 150 on the Tour, and again, like I said, with the Tour. And the Tour, you'll see some of those really good, but you're going to see a lot more variation, and you'll see a bunch of those, I had a 140 in there with a 7 iron, which is a total mishit, a 145, 150. I mean, there's just a few more of those lower shots, but there's some really good. I mean, then you have some, a few of those high 162, 157s, 155s, even with the weaker loft. I'm still getting it up in the air, getting it to carry. It's just there's more variation between good and bad shots. You just see a wider spread that you don't see with the forged. And, a lot of that I think is the thinner face on the forged, more perimeter weighting, and just more mass around the head compared to the Tour. So 5 yard difference between the two. Spin wise, the Tour spun more, 6,300 RPM I averaged to 5,859 with the forge. So Tour spun a little bit more, which isn't shocking. 34, 4 degrees more aloft. The shape, the style of head, all that. Those things kind of play into that that category. But really, I mean, not a huge difference. I mean, 500 RPM. Again, the variation on the two was a little wider. When you're, from that iron, I saw everything from, I saw a shot that was, 7,200 almost, down to basically, a 5,000. So, it had a little wider spread there. When you get into the forged at 58, 59, a little tighter. I mean, you do get a couple in there that were in the high fours, a lot of 6,000s, but everything was kind of like that mid 50, 5,500 to 6,000, little over, and pepper in there a couple little, into the mid to high 4,000s. Nothing crazy high. I think there was one shot that touched 7,000, which was a kind of a big high fade, but other than that, everything else was kind of contained in kind of that 1,000. 1,500 RPM range, which I think for me as a, again, not an amazing ball striker by any means, and, barely in the single digits, it's not horrible, but the spread just being a little bit tighter on the forged. When you get a ball speed, again, you see a little bit of a difference. And neither one of these are ball speed machines. I mean, the Tour, is just not, it's a one-piece forged iron. Whereas, some people may look at the forged and say, or the Tour is that, one-piece forged, there's no frills, it's there. Whereas the forged, some people may look at it and, say, hey, it's got this micro slot in the long irons. It could be a real, ball speed machine. Ball speed was about 3 miles an hour difference, so just under. So 109.6 with the Tour and 112.3 with the forged. Again, these are 7 irons, but a 30-degree 7 iron in the forged and a 34-degree 7 iron in the Tour. A little bit faster ball speed with the forged, and again, I think that micro slot and that thinner face, it's just a forged thinner face than the Tour, adds a little bit of ball speed. Again, I think when you look at the the numbers for ball speed on this thing, that 112, again, extremely consistent. I think the lowest one I had as I scroll through was like a 109.4, and then I had a 114. What was that? A 114.3 and a 115.8 is kind of two of the highest, and then the lowest is 109.9. So again, really, really tight there. If I go back to the Tour, some of the mishits, 104. I mean, I had some 115s, 112, but a 104, a 108, a 109, a 107. I mean, there's some low guys in there that go along with the 112s and the 115s and all that. It's just a wider spread, with the Tour, and it just shows you that you're penalized a little more for missing the center of the face, which again, I would hope if you're jumping into that iron, you kind of know that. But ball speed, like I said, 2.7, 2.7 miles an hour, so just under 3. Club head speed was pretty close for both. I actually swung the Tour a little bit faster at 86.5, where the Forge was 85.5. So pretty close on those two. Smash factor between the two, again, I think you're going to expect that the Forge is going to be higher. It is. The Forge comes in at 131, the Tour 127, and it's just the Forge was more consistent with ball speed. Wherever I struck it on the face, I carried it, I kept a little bit more ball speed up. Launch angle was really interesting. When I started hitting the Forge, I think I said it came out flat, lower, and my launch angle there was 16.5, and then the launch angle with the Tour was 19.7. So 3.2 or 3.2 degrees difference, 4 degrees difference in the heads. Is that necessarily 1-to-1 ratio? I don't know if that necessarily works that way with irons, but I did launch the Tour significantly higher, and I felt like you noticed that the window was higher with the with the Tour. It just got up faster, easier, just hit higher shots with it. But it's 4 degrees weaker, so it's the Forged does come out flat. I don't hit a super high ball, so combined a very strong 7 iron with kind of a mid-low launching shaft. It's not really the recipe for my perfect game. I feel like, again, with a slightly higher launching shaft, with forged head, with the forged head, I could probably get that to a few more yards out of it and make it carry a little farther, make it stop on the green a little easier. And I think if I was fit, I don't think I'd be fit into the Modus 120 in that head. Now the Tour, who knows, that would be a little more interesting. But launch, Tour is definitely easy to launch. It's easy to get up in the air. I think as long as you're a player who carries a little bit of ball speed or a club head speed, you should be fine. I am by no means a speed demon in any of my clubs, but irons especially. 86.5 is not super, super fast. Compared to, I've had people ask me in some of my Q&A sessions that they've got 93 mile an hour, 7 irons and, 95 mile an hour 7 irons and stuff like that. I've talked to some fitters who've seen, some guys in the hundreds who, are ex-college pro type athletes who really move it. Pretty, I would say pretty solid numbers, numbers that you would expect between these two irons, between the fours, between the tour. I think I went into it expecting that the tour was going to be a little shorter. I did expect it to kind of maybe launch a little flatter. I didn't think it would kind of go as high compared to the forged, but loft, all that being a little different, it does make a difference in that launch. So pretty similar, but really good irons. I really like both of them. I think these are the two irons that everybody was kind of waiting for from the JPX923 line. When they first announced it, they kind of did a staggered release in a sense. They really promoted the hot metal stuff, and then these came out kind of a little bit later. When the hot metal stuff hit, I know our audience, at least Golf the Beer X audience, definitely wanted to see the Forge and the Tour, and now they're there, and they are really, really good. So if I was to game one of them, I would probably go Forge, go a little higher launching shaft, and maybe even bend them like a degree weak to see kind of how that would work. And I think, forgiveness wise, definitely that would suit my game better. I love the feel of the Tour, but I just, it's a little too penalizing for my erratic game. So if you go to MizunoGolf.com, you can check out all the details on both irons. Go to your local shop, fitter, whoever, test them out. They are really good. They're definitely worth hitting. I think they're a great kind of, the Tour is just kind of the basic evolution from the previous version. I think the Forged is really good. It has some great performance, and then the hot metal stuff is vastly vastly underrated. I think the performance there is really good. I've actually been talking to a lot of fitters for our best iron piece coming out, and a lot of the hot metal stuff has been all over there. They've been really, really high on the hot metal stuff. So go check them out, MizunoGolf.com, or go check out your local shop, fitter, demo them, try them, see what you like. But these both really, really good. And if you're a mid to mid golfer below, I think either one of those could fit your game really, really well. So go check them out. And then we're going to get into an iron that I've kind of had a ton of requests for. And the previous version, nobody cared. Nobody cared about it. Nobody asked me about hitting it or whatever, maybe one person. But this year, the Srixon ZX4 Mark II has been, I've got a lot of DMs. Again, if you don't follow me on Instagram, at Club Junkie Pod, but I've got a lot of Instagram DMs and stuff asking when I was going to hit these, when I was going to try them, and everything. And I had them. I only have like a 4-6 in pitch, but I've got a few irons, and I was going to definitely hit them. So I finally have gotten them out the past couple weeks, and again, put a lot of shots on them this weekend as well. I've got some things to say about the ZX4, which the ZX4, the previous version, these are, hollow body, multi-piece irons built for forgiveness and, players who are looking to, looking for distance, looking for speed, looking for forgiveness. They're not necessarily looking for the ZX7. They're not looking for the precision, blade. These are, built for a little higher handicapper who's, maximum forgiveness and distance, and a little bit of height. But it's a really good iron. I think shape-wise, the previous ZX4 wasn't bad. It looked decent. This one here, they've really, really, I think, kind of really improved the look. I think it looked really good. I think it is a great transition set or combo set if you're going to utilize ZX4 Mark II with ZX5 Mark II. I think they're going to play together well. The top line on the ZX4 is definitely a little bit thicker. It's got a little bit more offset, not a ton, but a little bit more offset, but it has the same shape, same DNA, all that as ZX5. So I think players who, say you play ZX5, you need a little help in the long irons, you can throw ZX4s in there without them looking kind of out of place and looking different. They look very similar from the back. They still have the same mainframe stuff, but they've got a little hotter face. They still carry the Tour VT sole, so great turf interaction, especially from some steeper players. Just overall a really good looking package. The top line for some players, of course, is going to be a little bit thick, and they probably have too much offset. If you're somebody who's like a 5 handicap or something like that, this is not built for you anyway, so it's okay. But the main frame technology, where they basically have the face as a separate piece, and it's all milled out in a certain way to increase ball speed, increase the size of the sweet spot, all that is there. And and I think the face portion is actually forged, where the body is, I think, cast. And then these things here are going to have different grooves. So the 4 through 7 iron are going to have like a slightly different groove than the short irons, in order to kind of make sure the spin rates are built for the type of shots that you're hitting. But overall, package-wise, looks really, really good. I think I was surprised. This was the one iron when Srixon kind of sent all the media samples in, and we pulled the box open. These were, I think, I was the most shocked with how good they look. The short irons, pretty minimal offset. The 6 and above have a little bit offset, which they should, the type of iron it is. But I don't think it's crazy. It's not a ton. And in the slightly bigger package, it doesn't look out of place. It doesn't look too weird or funky. So I think a lot of players who need this iron, who hate big game improvement irons with tons of offset and funky shapes and all that, they're going to look at this, and it's going to, from the back, look like a player's club, and when you set it down, it's going to look more like a player's club while still having all the help that you need in it. Sound and feel, ZX7, ZX5 sound and feel is phenomenal. 7s are, buttery soft. 5s are really, really good. These, they've got a little sound to them. They're hollow body, all that. They've got a little more firmness to them. They're not terrible. I'd say kind of like I just talked about in the JPX923 forged. You're going to get a little more firmness, a little bit of click, a little bit of sound out of this. You'll get more of it than the forged because it is hollow body, so you get a little more click, especially with a firmer ball. You're going to kind of hear and feel that a little bit more. The feel is a little bit more crisp. You're going to get a little more vibration to the hands from those impacts, especially if you're using a firmer ball. But it's not unpleasant. It's not bad. If you're comparing it to like ZX5, yes, the 5 probably sounds and feels a little bit softer, a little bit nicer, but these are really, really good. And for most irons in this category, it's going to be on the better side of sound and feel, just because, Srixon has done probably done some homework and utilized the inside of it to change the geometries and things like that. But sound and feel is good for an iron of this caliber. We're not expecting it to be a blade. We're not expecting it to be crazy buttery soft. It's got a little sound and a little bit of feel and a little bit of firmness, but it's not bad at all. And I think probably better than most people would expect when they kind of understand what technology and all that is in this club. The interesting thing for me, forgiveness-wise, really easy to hit. Really wants to go straight. It's easy to turn over or easy to square up, hit a straight ball, maybe even a little bit of a draw. It doesn't necessarily want to go as hard right as, say, the 5 or the 7. Workability is going to be something that you're not going to see out of this set. You're going to see more forgiveness. If you're somebody who wants to really work it both ways and all that, you're going to go to the 5 or the 7. But this thing here wants to go straight, easy to square up, easy to hit it straight to a little bit of a draw. It does want to fight a little bit of a slice, or at least it's harder to hit that shot. But just a really good iron, really solid package. I think Srixon is going to do really, really well with this iron this year. I think it's a big improvement over last year's. In terms of performance, I didn't really hit last year's a lot, and never hit it on a launch monitor. I hit it, or the previous version. So I can't really compare it to this one. I'd have to go dig in to find a ZX4 if we still have it somewhere around the office. So, but anyway, but this one here, I've got a 6 iron, not a 7 like the two Mizuno. So I think I had a 4, 6, and like a 9 iron or 8 iron or something like that. But the 6 iron is one I hit the most balls with to kind of get some numbers with. And the interesting thing about the 4 was it actually was kind of a lower launching club than I thought. I thought the trajectory on this thing was going to be super high, super up in the air. It was actually a little bit flatter than I expected. Came out boring, and the ball went a long way. I think the first shot I hit was like, 6 iron for me is kind of a 170 shot. I want to say that like the first shot I hit distance-wise was like well over that. Yeah, I mean, I think the first shot I hit was 175, and I was just kind of like, what? Like, where's this thing going? But really good ball speed, really good distance on these things. They just come out a little bit flat. I was a little bit lower launching than I thought, and it was funny because I was talking to, again, one of the fitters from our best irons list, and he was kind of saying, it's like the ZX4 launches a little low. He's like, it goes out lower than you think. And I didn't even think about that until after I started hitting it and right about to do the show, and I was like, that's right. He was telling me kind of about the trajectory that he's been seeing, and I got the same thing. Now, mileage will vary, different shafts, all that. This is the KBS Tour Light, which is a little bit of a higher launching shaft as well. But yeah, really kind of a flat launching club. It comes out flat. It doesn't go crazy high. So if you're a player, again, who wants more forgiveness but doesn't need super high launch, this might be worth checking out. So this one here, average distance on this thing, 168, which for me, a 6-iron is 170, is what I kind of play it as. And when I hit it solid, it goes 170. But this one here, again, pretty tight. Everything kind of the kind of high 160s for distance, from 165s to kind of 170, 172. Even had a 178 shot in there, a couple 175s. So definitely long, definitely close. If you get it anywhere close to the center, the ball is really going to go, and it's going to carry a good ways. So 168 was my average, and again, I only pull out the terrible shots. Like if I miss a little bit, and on here, let me see what's the lowest. If I scroll down, I got a 159 in there, a 162. 163. So I've got a couple, that I definitely missed it and got it out there, but most of it, like I said, 165, 166, all the way through 170, 172, and then that 178, 175 that really went. But 168 average carry distance. That's not total, just carry. Spin, a little bit on the lower side compared to the other two. Again being a 6-iron though, 4588, so 4,588 RPMs. And spin rate, when you kind of go through a little bit of variation. I mean, we go from 4,000 to 62,000, 4,000 to 6,200 was kind of the range. So a little wider range, but not too bad. I mean, most everything kind of stayed in, had one or two really low, low 4,000s, 4,100, 42, but then everything else kind of stayed in the 55 to the 6,000. And I think the top end one was 63.22. So I mean, you're really not crazy high spin, even when you hit some shots that were higher, and even maybe if they had just a touch more fade, they didn't spin like crazy. Ball speed was pretty darn fast at 118, 118.5, and again, really consistent. I had some super hot ones in there, at a 125, 125.1, a 121, 122, but everything kind of stayed. I think the lowest I did have, you look through there, most things were 117 to 120. That was kind of the range, and then there was a couple low ones on those really poor shots at 113, and then like that 125 that jumped out of there for that 178 shot. So, but everything kind of stayed in that one kind of 115 to 120 area. That was kind of the majority of the shots, and again, pretty good, pretty tight, not a ton of variation, other than a few bad ones, but just shows you that when I'm not, I don't hit the center every time. I'm missing it a little bit out heel, a little bit toe, whatever, and I'm still keeping a pretty good ball speed number out there. Clubhead speed was actually a little bit slower than the 7-irons I was hitting with the Forge, which is pretty interesting. Only averaged 84.2, which was definitely a little slower. Everything was pretty tight there. Went from basically 82 up to 87. So everything was pretty, somewhat consistent, but a little slower swinging than I thought it would be. Still carried it a good ways and still kept the ball speed up. Smash factor was 141 on average. And, when you look again at the consistency there, for that 141, I mean, everything, 137 was the lowest, and 14, that 170 was like a 149, but everything was kind of that 137 to 143 was right around that range. A lot of 141s, which I ended up averaging out, but a lot of 141s in there, 142s, and like I said, a 133 was the worst that I saw on there. So again, consistency, easy to hit, and keeping that ball speed up. Launch again was a little flatter than I thought. It was going to be 14.9. For a 6-iron that is 25.5 degrees. So 25.5 degrees. I was launching at 14.9. Again, I don't hit a crazy high ball, so don't when you're going out hitting these yourself, mileage is going to vary. And again, I don't hit a super high ball, so for me, 14.9 was there, and I only hit an apex though of like I averaged 76, but launch angle, I had everything in there from nothing crazy. I mean, I had a 12, a 12.2, 12.9. And then went up to, but I never went above 17.5 was the highest launching shots in there. I had a couple 17.5s, but everything was pretty much a little bit under that. So a little flatter than I thought, but overall, kind of cannons, they go a long ways. They're easy to hit, and if you're looking for something that's long, but you don't necessarily need a ton of height, you don't need a ton of help getting it up in the air, these might be worth checking out because you're going to get forgiveness, and I think they're going to pair up well. Making a combo set between like ZX4 long irons, you throw maybe the 4 and 5 in ZX4, and then ZX5 the rest of the way. Could be a really cool combo set and allow you to kind of keep some of that ball speed at the top end of the bag that some people like myself lack a little bit. But the ZX4 Mark IIs are really, really good. I think I'm really impressed with them. I really like them over last year's. I remember when I hit the last generation, it was kind of like, okay, I hit them. These I was kind of excited to get out and try, and I wasn't disappointed. I think they're definitely long. They're definitely easy to hit. They're just not crazy high launching like some people might expect them to be. So pretty cool though. But yeah, play off a 43-degree pitching wedge. They're pretty strong. 21-degree 4-iron. Like I said, the 6-iron. 25.5. So, but really a great set of irons. I think definitely worth trying, especially if you're looking for something a little more forgiving. If you try the ZX5 and you like them, but hey, after 6-iron, I'm just I'm not really confident with it. Maybe the 4s are the way to go. Definitely worth trying though. Definitely big improvement just in terms of the looks. I think they look really good. So Srixon kind of nailed the 4s, and I think these are going to do really well this year. I just have a feeling that they're going to be pretty darn solid irons. So that is the ZX4 Mark II. I would say go to Srixon Golf, but like Srixon's site is now like Dunlop Sports and all that. So just Google Srixon Golf and just go and check out the rest of the details and the specs on the ZX4 Mark IIs. They've got it all there. I'm not going to try to read off the whole the whole URL or anything like that. So, but really good irons, 3 really solid irons that are all worth trying if you're in the market. 2 and forged if you're looking for something in that realm, or little kind of that mid to lower handicap. And if you're looking for something with added forgiveness, but not necessarily added height, definitely check out the ZX4s. I think they're really good. So that's all I've got today. I hope you guys have a great weekend coming up. Hopefully you get out and play some golf. I'm hoping to soon play some golf. I was telling somebody at the office, I was just like, I just want to go play. I just want to play on some grass. I just want to walk around. We're getting there. So hopefully soon. But anyway, wherever you're listening to this, if you could like, subscribe, whatever, it'd be awesome. If you're watching this on YouTube, again, please like, subscribe. Would love it. I know it's cliche and all that, but the more kind of followers you have, all that, it kind of helps with the algorithm, helps spread the word. And it just makes things a lot nicer and a lot easier. But I do appreciate everybody who does listen, who does tune in, takes the time out of their busy schedules to listen to a little golf or chat on Instagram or whatever. Really do appreciate all that. So thank you. And yeah, I guess we'll talk next week. See ya.